clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome to Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to SST on Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and on YouTube. Joining me today, Cody O'Connor. It's been a few weeks since we chatted on this very airwave, and I'm happy to be back chopping it up with you. We have on the docket today, of course, we got to talk a little March Madness from the layman's perspective, as Cody and I fancy ourselves NBA heads, and we're not going to pretend to be college heads. But like many of y'all out there, you're looking for the inside lane to filling out the perfect bracket, to winning your bracket challenge, and all that fun stuff. Well, guess what? These experts ain't got it figured out either. So me and Cody are going to break down our view, our vibe check on how we fill out our bracket and the upsets and the Final Four and everything beyond, and have some fun chit-chatting about the tournament, because it's one of the best times of year in the sporting world, and you can't deny that fact. We're also going to talk in the college sports ilk about the quarterbacks at the top of this draft, as some of the quarterbacks have moved, the trades are starting to fall, and we're starting to get a sense of where these top four quarterbacks might fall in this year's NFL draft. And last but not least, we will hit, of course, the thing we are actually more on the expertise side of things with the NBA, the New York Knicks, and the Western Conference, as this gets more and more competitive, and we try to see who's changing minds in the Western Conference for better or worse. Cody O'Connor, what's up, my brother?
Yeah, man, it's about that time where I put all 0 hours of college basketball watched to use and start pretending that I know what I'm talking about, based off of just things that don't matter, like years past performance with teams with guys that are no longer there because there's so many one and dones. But that's not going to stop me from filling out brackets. It's not going to stop me from betting on almost every single game as much as I can, as I've got a fun weekend in Atlantic City with my bachelor party this weekend, specifically designed for March Madness. So I spend all year not watching college basketball, then choose one of the best trips of my, adult lifetime to be centered around said college basketball. That's how we do things.
That's beautiful, and I can just see the wagers flying at the sports book in Atlantic City, and plus on the phone, we got the apps flying as well. Cody O'Connor just talking nonsense about McKessie State, and they got some sharpshooters, man. That run and gun style can really just it could knock down anybody. I can see them not just covering, but winning this one outright.
If they can get hot from three, which you could say about every team ever, but you kind of sound smart, so that's what we're rolling with.
It's so good, and I'm glad we're having this conversation so candidly, because I think there's probably a lot of people who are in this situation who are talking on a podcast who are like, yeah, man, I've been diving into the research. I'm a college basketball guy. I'm going to tell you what you need to know to make these picks. And you and I are like, we don't really watch college basketball. I really only know the guys who are in the draft top 15, and that's about it. And I still am going to make picks with as much confidence as Mr. Expert over here, and probably do just as well. Because all of us out here who aren't true, and I say true with emphasis, college basketball fans are on an even playing field. This ain't like fantasy football. There's a lot of people who watch a ton of football or watch a little bit of football who are good fantasy football players. Like the data, the analysis is available for someone who hardly watches on Sundays to be a good fantasy football player. On the contrary, Cody, in the NCAA tournament, there's a lot of people who are like, I love college basketball. I like college basketball more than I like the NBA. I watch it more on bet, but they're not really watching all these teams. Like, let's be honest, they're catching Duke, North Carolina. They're catching the occasional UConn game. Maybe if they live over here, they'll turn on a St. John's if they're bored on a Saturday. They're not tapped in, and yet all of us collectively go on to ESPN or Yahoo or CBS, and we fire up the brackets, and we pick with confidence, and we take a few upsets, and we have that one weird team in the Final Four, and you feel good about it. And some teams, some years, you're a goddamn genius, and some years you busted in the second round, and it's over. But that's the beauty of this whole damn thing. I've had someone like, you have a mother who enters a bracket into the challenge. She's in first place until the last weekend. What's going on here, Cody? That's how the cookie crumbles.
How many times does that happen? It's like, oh yeah, you're like you said, your mom, your aunt, your grandfather, whoever, they're in first place, and it's like, how'd you pick? Oh, I just did the color of the uniforms. I just did,
Vibes.
Based on some alphabetical order that I've come up with, some numerical guesses that I have, and it's like, yeah, your guess is as good as mine, and the next expert that so called, it's too unpredictable. It's why it's the funnest tournament in sports. It is the best tournament in sports. And I don't watch next to any college basketball leading up. And the people who are all over this supposedly, how can you keep up? I mean, I
I don't know,
watch
man.
as many sports as anybody. I watch far more than I even care to admit. Sweet ending to the Players, by the way, on Sunday, Players Championship at TPC. Very cool ending, Scotty Scheffler and Wyndham Clark. I'm locked in on all that. I'm watching spring training Mets. I watch the NBA. I dive into the NHL. Where's the time left for college basketball? I watch 2 TVs a night. There's no time for that. So those of you who are, either you're a college basketball hardo, good for you. That's awesome. That's a good sport to watch. Or more likely, you're lying to yourself and everybody else.
Yeah. Because in reality, even if you say you have a team, right? I think that's tough for people in Northeast. Like if you don't go to a school that has high D1 basketball, if you don't grow up rooting for a school or have a family member who went to a certain place, it's hard to kind of like back into one specific team or one specific conference and all that stuff. But even for the people who do, like I know plenty of people in my life who care about St. John's basketball, and they have a pretty good grapple on the Big East. Like they watch St. John's, they see all the UConns, the Seton Halls, the Marquettes, the Creightons, like they have a grapple on those teams, 100%. But like now we're talking Arizona, Kentucky, Kansas, Iowa State, and Oregon. You've been watching them all? No, you haven't, bro. And that's my favorite thing. It's like all of a sudden everybody's the college basketball expert, and that's why you and I are given the honest side, where we're going to tell you who to pick anyway. We're doing it with the prerequisite of saying we don't know.
Having said all that, here's your advice: follow our picks.
And that's the thing, though, because I think there's like a general ability to put a bracket together that some people have, right? And I'm not saying like I'm like some special bracket put together guy, but I've had my fair share of years where I'm not tapped in on college basketball weekly, and I feel good about a bracket, and it goes decently well, right? Because it comes down to your process. Are you thinking about the tournament from a historical perspective of how things play out? Are you picking the right amount of upsets? Are you doing these types of things, right? Like if you're not picking any upsets, it's like a freaking fact at this point you are going to lose out on a bunch of points in your bracket. That's obvious. You have to pick some upsets. Now, if you get those upsets wrong, you're also losing out on all the points in your bracket. So it's a catch-22, absolutely. But that process, that vibe check that you go through, which is probably a little bit different than mine, and mine is different than the next person's, I think it's interesting to see how people do it, because so frequently we all sit home on our computers or on our phones during work. You get on your desk while you have a quick minute and you fill out your bracket, and it's a beautiful thing. But you never really get the full insight of why people are doing what they do. So Cody, let me ask you this first and foremost as we get into the process here. How many brackets are you putting in? Like how many variations of brackets are you doing that I'll say like with money on them, right? Because you can put in 10 brackets and 8 of them are free. I don't care about the 8 free ones. So how many variations of brackets are you doing with money on it?
I'll only do 1 or 2. Right now, I'm in one guaranteed. I may or may not join another one. And that's about it.
I'm sending you a new one tomorrow, so you'll be in another one tomorrow.
So here's the thing. Like when you send it to me, I won't be able to not do it. So don't send me brackets.
You'll get it
tomorrow. I won't
tomorrow.
have any type of like self-control to be like, it's only 20 more bucks. It's only 20. Why not? It's March. This only comes once a year. But I really only do a few. Part of it is because, DraftKings, FanDuel, you could bet on each game. And that's also, that's a good way to kind of keep up with what you're going to take and take a look at those lines and whatnot. And then I am, for the first time, I'm in like a Super Bowl box type of March Madness pool where it's each round 64, 32, Sweet 16, all the way down. And I have a box with the score 7-0. I think it's 7 winners, 0 loser, maybe vice versa. And it's just like in the NFL, like when you do a Super Bowl box, if the game ends in your score's numbers, you hit on that game. And so you can hit 3-4 times in the first round and have made, double your money already, so it's a cool new thing that I'm trying. It was quite pricey for the one box, but the way I see it, I've got a heck of a lot of chances to hopefully at least make my money back. So that's one new thing that kind of is a different wrinkle for my March Madness watching.
I like that. I'm with you. I am also a 2 guy most of the time. I've
Gets
done in the
confusing
past.
after that.
Oh man, have I done a 3 or a 4 bracket variation in the past? I think I probably had 5 at some point in the past. And it comes to that point where it takes until like the Sweet 16 until you know which bracket has legs. And what tricks you sometimes is if you get those random, 13, 14 seeds or 12 seeds upsets in the first round that you nail, but then your late round teams don't do well, you look like you're hot shit in that first couple days of the tournament, and you're at the top of the ESPN bracket challenge, and you're like, yo, look at me, 96 percentile, I'm out here. But your remaining points available is small. And then the other one where you missed all the upsets, you have the Final Four intact, and you have that chance. So that comes to my next question, Cody. Let me ask it like this. Are there any teams out there that for whatever reason you just are done with, that you see this college and you go, I'm done. I've been burned too many times before. I don't even know who's on their team this year. I don't care. I don't trust this program.
That's funny. One of them that ultimately, like the quickest one that comes to mind for me, and it's not from personal experience, it's just from feeling like the same thing over and over. And as I say it now, a second one's come to mind. But Purdue is a big one because I swear to you, they're the exact same team every year. I was talking to my brother, making a joke about it. Like, yes, they probably have a few, crafty point guards, and they have this giant oaf of a center who's like 11 feet tall and can't really move very well, but he just kind of grabs rebounds and places them back in the hoop. And he's like, yep, they've got that. I'm like, all right, so there's one of them. I'm like, all right, let's do some more college basketball breakdown. And Gonzaga is always another one. At least for me, I just think like, they're probably not going to do great, but they are like a 5 seed this year. They're usually, a 1, 2, maybe a 3. So I guess they don't have
for the 1 for a few years there. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't seem to have that same, I guess rookie class or freshman class that they brought in years past. I mean, even just 2 years ago, they had, Chet Holmgren and Jalen Suggs are 2 of the most recent, high-end draft
was there for like 9 years.
I would assume he's still there. In my eyes, Perry Ellis is probably going to trot out for Kansas his 14th year.
COVID, he really just he got a couple of years of eligibility.
Yeah, 8 years of injury, 2 COVID years, and I don't know. Maybe he had a broken toenail and has his 14th year of eligibility picked up.
That's great. I love the Purdue call. That's definitely a team there where I'm just like, oh yeah, I get it. They deserve to be seated where they are. And I just feel like I don't want to put them that far. They're going to win a few games. They probably won't have the massive, they're 1 seed this year, so they probably won't. But, they feel like a team that in the tournament time, especially with this guy, Edie, who, is one of the players of the year in college basketball. He's a monster. He's huge. He just bullies people. I get it. And then it's like, all right, now it's a tournament and you get a couple sharp shooters, like you said, all it takes is to get hot from 3, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden they're done. So Purdue's a good call. One for me, I love that it's in the same region of the bracket there, Tennessee. I've been burned too many times, man. That Admiral Schofield, Grant Williams has seared a harsh scar on my soul when I thought that Tennessee team was full of juice and was going to make a huge run, and they were disappointing. It feels like they're a constant 2 seed. I don't have the numbers on this, Cody, but we do this all vibes, man. That's what it is. Tennessee is a 2 seed through and through, and they're a disappointing 2 seed at that. I always, or as of recently, since I've been burned so many times before, I'm done with putting Tennessee, past like the round of 32, even there. Like they might make the Sweet 16, but I ain't picking them that far because I'm done seeing this team come up short. And another one, this is new on my list, Cody. I think I'm done with Arizona.
I'm with you there.
I don't know why. Have I watched them play this year, Cody? No. I haven't watched him play, but I'm done with Arizona. I was a big Ben Mathurin fan coming into the draft, so I was locked in on Arizona when he was there because I loved Ben Mathurin, and that's usually the prism in which I watch college basketball. It's for the NBA prospects.
Yeah.
Ben Mathurin's my guy. They're gonna do. No, disappointing. Constant 1 seed, constant 2 seed. What do? They don't do it. They don't get it done, Cody. I'm not putting them in my championship. I've done it too many times before. Tennessee, Arizona, I'm out.
When you said Arizona, my first thought was Aaron Gordon. I don't know about you, but that's just what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit more recent, I guess, with the Ben Mathurin year. And
my brain
and then even
flashes back 10 years so quickly. It's just like, yeah, those guys are still trotting it out there.
and then even DeAndre Ayton, correct, right, as well?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, DeAndre Ayton.
Didn't they lose?
I think I chose that team to go pretty far.
100%, because you're like, yo, this guy's a monster. He's going to be a top dog in the NBA. He's at Arizona. You know, he's going to be a top 3 pick. And then they lose to Buffalo. What are we doing here? I'm never trusting them again. Never, not dead. Once again in my life. They're dead,
to me. Yep. Tiki Barber.
Exactly. So now on the flip side, unless you have anyone to add to that. Do you have anything to add to that? Okay. On the flip side, any tried and trues? Any people who you just say, oh, reliable, Sweet 16, Elite 8, trust them blindfolded. I'm going to point them right to the end of my bracket. Any of those classic programs that you just want to push to the Elite 8 and beyond?
Tough one. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but whenever I see BYU, they're always like a middle tier 6 through 9 seed, and they feel
Classic
like they're going to
6.
win and get to like the Sweet 16. I like UConn. I know that's a 1 seed, so that feels a little bit. They just
won last year, so it's kind of weird. But
they're a team that, they just feel like they're a tournament team, whether it's, through the program, the coach, I don't know what the turnover is. I couldn't tell you the coach's first name. Full transparency here. But
that's all we do.
UConn is a big one. You know who's a non-trustworthy one that is a big name, and it's one of the, blue blood of head coaches, if you will. But the Tom Izzo-led Michigan State.
I knew it.
They're just not your father's Michigan State.
They used to be a tried and true for me. It's like, oh, Michigan State, tournament time, trust them. Let's put them into the Elite 8. They're going to get there. They're going to get the job done. And lately, I'm just out. And they're a classic 8-9 seed. Just like you just said about BYU, classic 6 seed. They're an 8-9. Like Northwestern, I don't think they've ever been anything but an 8 or a 9 seed. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if they've ever been an 8 or a 9. But right now, they're a 9, Cody, and they've always been a 9 in my books. And they're not going to get past the second round, obviously.
Yeah, this is tough. I'm trying to look through.
I love this so much. We're just talking shit like we know what we're talking about. Or actually, we're not even pretending. We're just straight shooting from the cup.
This is how I do this. Like, I honestly made a bracket the last 2 years, this one included so far, unless I make changes, based off almost nothing. I mean, really, genuinely nothing, because usually I've done years past where I've really gone into like heavy research. I sucked. And I've listened and consumed as much talk radio, podcasts, etc., which is still part of my process now, is listening to 1 or 2 guys on a podcast who've watched college basketball.
Like One Shining Podcast?
Yeah, and try to like pick out a couple things that maybe they mention. Like I always love, and I still think it's true, is just like something like a senior point guard or a senior backcourt. I always love a guy that can kind of just take control and slow things down in those crunch time moments, like the veterans of college basketball, if you will. So if you can find, those types of things, but it's such a crapshoot. It really is. It's too hard to sit here with any confidence and say, what I'm telling you is what's going to happen. It's too difficult.
Yeah. Oh, we are more accurate than anyone trying to pretend like they know what the frick is going to happen here. So on that front, let me ask this question here. Are now on the flip side of that, out of the trustworthy teams, actually, you know what? Let's table that for 1 second, because I want to save that until we start making some actual picks here. I want to start throwing some of the upsets out there. I want to do all that stuff. Then my last question for you: when you are making your bracket, are you doing it with your Final Four and championship team in mind and then working towards it? Or are you working from the outside in, going round by round, and then kind of seeing where you get when each round provides itself?
The first way is probably the smart one. and I'm leading you to my answer, which is the dumb way. I start from the outside, from the very top, and I just go, all right, 1 verse 16, one's moving on. 8 verse 9, I don't know. Flip a coin. All right, let's move on. 12 verse 5, ooh, we got to have a 12 or 5 in there. So, I just kind of go from there. I'm like, I have to have, you know what I mean? There's got to be some double digits. It's like, it's the same, I don't know how else to do this. It's too difficult. It's too unpredictable.
We are one.
And
Cody.
yet, you know what the best part of all
this
is how much we're going to be wagering game to game with next to no real information. Like, I'll just listen to my buddy next to me and go, that sounds good to me. All right, let's take a money line. That's fine. Yeah. Plus what? Okay, sure. Yeah.
Have you heard of the just bet $100 on every underdog? Last year, 4 underdogs alone covered the initial put down of $3,200, or I guess, $3,200. 4 of the winners alone covered it. And then it went over by a good margin, just betting $100 on every underdog. I ain't got that type of capital in the DraftKings account. However, it's intriguing to me to do something so crazy like that, because you get that one big upset and like you're halfway there.
Yeah. You get, almost every year, a 2 or a 3 seed's going to go down, right? You just know of all 4 brackets, of all 4 sides of the bracket, rather, one of the 2 or 3 seeds is going down. They're probably somewhere around a 15-point underdog, which is going to give you about 8 to 1, 10 to 1. I mean, like you said, you hit one of them, and all of a sudden, you're right there. It's a good strategy. I'm taking dogs down. Like, I'm getting all excited about what we're going to do when we get down there Thursday, going into Friday, and there's just like all the dogs, the possibilities, the parlays, putting straight cash, getting the ticket. Ooh, I'm getting excited.
There we go. All right, let's start making some predictions here, Cody. And again, if you just joined the podcast or you fell asleep, went to a coma for 22 minutes, Cody and I are absolutely college basketball experts, and this is all the picks that you should definitely tail with the utmost confidence. So, Cody, let's hit it with some of the underdogs first. And let's start. Do you go top left? Is that how you talk about it as well?
In the East?
Looking at the bracket?
Are you looking at the East?
What do you think? You're better than me? Calling it the East? It's the top left, Cody. All right. Is there any team that stands out? And I'm looking for the 11s to 16s here that you're looking at as a team to say, yes, that's one of my dogs who's going to make it through the first round, and I'll consider if they make it further on past that down the road.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's correct that it's okay. It's Morehead State. It was abbreviated. I'm like 98% sure that's what it is. But I got Morehead State over Illinois. For what reason? I told you some 3 seed is going to lose. I think I heard one person say something about how Illinois has been shaky this year, or maybe I saw something about their efficiency rating. Whatever it was, I said, all right, I'll bet against them. That's fine. So that was one in that bracket. And another one I have for no reason, but I have UAB because they're the 12 seed and a 5 seed's going to lose.
I like that a lot. I'm actually on the UAB side here for you, but I think they're going to be one of my 12s I take for the reason in which Trent Dilfer is the football coach there now. Kind of like him. So I'm going to go with UAB as the 12 seed because, again, I'm going to pick at least 2 12s to upset the 5s. San Diego State, I kind of look at them as one of those reliable teams, but as soon as they hit that 5 seed, you go, ooh, I don't know if I can take that smoke right now. I'm going to take a step back. San Diego State, if you were a 4, if you were a 3 or a 2, I would see you as a consistent Sweet 16er, but sitting at that 5 seed, I don't know if I like your vibe right now. I'm going UAB. However, Illinois Morehead State, it jumped out to me. Not loving it. However, Cody, I'll tip my hand a little bit here. I'll tip my hand. Auburn, a 4 seed, is a team that I'm kind of looking at as a team to make a little run here in this tournament. So I'm not going to go on the 4-13 spot, even though the idea of a Yale type of team making an upset in the first round, always enticing. I'm not going to take the bait. I'm going to not go with the Yale 13 and ride Auburn at 4.
Yale's a good one too, because sometimes you get like some of those, Princeton's, the Yales, and they just play a style of basketball that's very controlled, and it feels like it can translate into the tournament. You typically see a point guard or two that's just, and I'm not saying it because they're where they go to school, but they're just a very high basketball IQ type of player. So those are things that I do look at, but I don't think I did Yale either. But you tipping your hand on Auburn. I might be right there with you, Pete. And matter of fact, I exactly am.
Okay. I didn't forget to mention this. There's one aspect of research that I have been kind of looking at this year, and it is called the trapezoid of excellence. Cody, have you heard of the trapezoid of excellence?
Yeah, I have, but why don't you explain it for the listeners, because I don't know that they'll know. So
Right.
just for them.
So it's your classic grid-based system here,
Right,
where it takes pace and it takes your net rating. So pace is across the bottom, so the teams further to the right have a faster pace. Net rating is obviously just a general statistic for how successful teams are. So if you're higher up on net rating, that's a good thing as well. So, in theory, a team like Arizona, which fits into my thing here, they have a great net rating, but they play at an incredibly high pace, which means they could go on a run, but they also could be prone to some more heartbreak and upsets, if you will. The trapezoid of excellence, if you're looking at this on YouTube here, you're seeing my hands go around in a trapezoid fashion here. It's the people who have a high net rating and a somewhat middling pace, where they're not going to be as prone to getting outrun by a fast-paced team or completely bogged down and muddied up by a slow-paced team. For example, Houston is at the tippy top of net rating, and they have a slow pace. They're just at the top corner of the trapezoid of excellence. Maybe a fast-paced team can knock down a Houston. However, a fast-paced team can get completely bogged down by this slow half-court style of a Houston. And this trapezoid of excellence has proven to be very successful over the past couple of years of teams that are having great success in the tournament. Like Princeton last year, who had a little mini run there, was a team that for some reason, amongst all these Division I programs, was rating really well in this trapezoid of excellence. Great net rating, very middle level pace. They can kind of play up, they can kind of slow down, and that's very interesting to me. And I'll probably reference that a little bit more as we move forward. But let's go back to the bracket here. Let's go down to the bottom left, the Western region here. Cody, same question to you. Any low seeds there that stand out to you that you just say, hey, I like their vibe, I like the cut of their jib, they're going to win their first round matchup? You're on mute.
Baha. My dog and fiance came in. I was trying to be polite before by muting so I wouldn't interrupt you, and then I'm talking to nothing. But what the team I was going to mention is New Mexico over Clemson. And Clemson is not a basketball school, for one. And I definitely had heard this on a podcast about how vulnerable they were. And New Mexico is probably, for whatever reason, the most confident that I am in anything I've said so far about these brackets, that the 11 seed, are going to be able to get past Clemson, the 6. I actually don't have a ton of other upsets in this one. Look at me.
Yeah, Charleston's one that stands out, but Alabama has been becoming more of a basketball school in their past. They're a very, very fast-paced team. I think that would
always
be interesting to see if they can get not run out of the gym, but slowed down and kind of taken out of their own game. So that's going to be kind of interesting. I think that's kind of a close call there. New Mexico stands out to me as well, and I did see one guy on TikTok say that he likes them. So it's in there for me as a possible upset. I like New Mexico. One that I will stay away from, another Yale type of situation, is Colgate. Colgate's a team. You see them in the tournament every once in a while, and you go, Colgate, huh? They going to do something? No, not this year. This is not going to be the upset bracket over here in the bottom left. This one's going to be a little bit chalky. North Carolina playing Staten Island's own Wagner, who won their first of 4 matchup against Howard, so they're in. UNC, didn't love them. I saw that entire game against NC State, probably the first college basketball game I watched from start to finish this entire year, and I was like, damn, North Carolina doesn't seem like they're that good. Yet they're a 1 seed, and yet I think they're going to walk into an Elite 8 appearance.
I actually watched a decent portion of that game as well, and it happened to be like obviously Carolina's worst game, or one of them. But one of the things I also was listening to on a podcast, which I definitely think is true, is to avoid or to be wary of just taking the team who won the conference tournament, because you think they're riding high and you're riding momentum, and how seldom that actually works out for you. So that was something I had thought about again going in. And here's the other thing, like, by tomorrow, I might have listened to one more podcast, and I might make some changes too. So I hate to say that as if these are all locked, but nothing is locked for me, not until Thursday at noon.
Correct. I will say this is not the first round, but I'm looking at Dayton to take down Arizona in round 2. I'm looking right at Dayton to win their game against Nevada and then beat Arizona in round 2. Now, if they lose and Nevada wins, I think Arizona gets by, but Dayton, however, I think they take down Arizona. Just watch out for that.
One of two things are happening here. Either you and I are college basketball experts, or more likely we're suckers and we're wrong, because you said Auburn, who I have in the Final Four and beyond. And I have Dayton upsetting Arizona as well. Probably a lot to do with.
This is horrible.
I think that's a lot to do with who you said earlier as a team you don't trust. I've seen enough of Arizona. You're right. I don't trust them. That's a years past thing. But there is some of that runs true. Like Alabama, every single year is a run and gun style team who shoots and jacks up a ton of threes, typically is a high scoring type of team, and they can get hot and they can get to the Sweet 16, and then they could fall flat on their face when the jumpers don't fall. But they're a team that can be upset by a Charleston, or they could be a team that you'll see in the Final Four and not really bat an eye at.
Yep. This is really, really worrisome that you and I are seeing this eye to eye without having talked about this before.
Terrified.
And both of us coming from the same level of college basketball knowledge. All right, let's go to the top right, the South, which shouldn't be on the top right, should be on the bottom right because it's South, but whatever. Who makes these brackets? Some idiot probably. We're going to the South. It's Houston, number 1 seed, Marquette, number 2 seed. Any of these underdogs here jumping out to you, Code?
James Madison over Wisconsin, because I feel like Wisconsin's typically vulnerable, and I've heard typically through Pardon My Take, because Big Cat's a Wisconsin guy, and then PFT is a JMU guy. That's their respective alma maters, and so they're matched up. And
committee knew what they were doing.
I'm going with the JMU upset, and then I promise you, this pick is the most selfish of them all. But I picked Vermont over Duke because this weekend I know my buddy who's a big Duke fan will be there. And I just thought, how fun would it be for Duke to get bounced in the first round while we're all together? And that's my Vermont take. And they're typically like a good shooting team who's always in the tournament and hangs around games. I think it's plausible.
Shout out Ryan Russillo. Shout out Russillo, Vermont alum there, who shouted them out on his podcast, respectively.
Nice.
That's good stuff. JMU, checks out by the trapezoid of excellence a little bit as well. JMU has that little bit of extra pace compared to Wisconsin. Their net rating is very similar, and maybe that pace from JMU can just throw them off their game, kind of mess them up a little bit. I can see that one coming to fruition as well. I know you just said that the conference winner, everyone's like, oh, they got the momentum. They're going to come in hot, and that's NC State right now.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, something about their team just really clicked with me, and I know they probably played the best game of their entire season in the only game that I watched. However, this big dude, Burns, on NC State, my guy was dropping dimes left and right from the high post, low post, getting some dribble moves, crazy touch with the left-handed hook. My God, this guy Burns. So I like NC State, and I'm not going to go too far with them. I don't think they're going to make a crazy run, but I do kind of like them to win this first-round matchup.
How about this question for you? How do you feel about Houston? What's your experiences with them? They're another team, and this was the other one I was telling my brother about when I'm like, Houston probably gets twice as many offensive rebounds as the other team. They're probably going to be a tough defensive team. They're long and athletic. Like, am I on the right track? He's like, yeah, that's who they are again. Mm-hmm. And they have been a team that hovers around the 1 and 2 seed the last couple years. Are definitely a program on the rise. And I'm not too spooked off by them just yet. I don't know about you. How do you feel about this team?
Houston, to me, is a tried and true at this point. It's like, listen, they may not win the whole damn thing, but for some reason, everyone's going to end up with them in their Elite Eight at minimum, and it's going to be the right pick. They're an Elite Eight minimum team. They got a high floor, and it's because they play that little bit of a slower pace. They're athletic. They're not going to beat themselves against lower competition is the way I look at Houston for no reason outside of what I just said. All right, let's move on. Anything? Well, we'll get there in a minute because Kentucky and Marquette are lingering there as possible, little frisky Final Four championship type teams there. I think we'll pick them up in a second here. Down to the bottom right, the Midwest, the Purdue bracket here, and here's a run of possible upsets that can happen in this one here. So it could go either way. Could be a bunch of upsets, could be none. Cody, what do you think?
I have upsets, but I don't have albeit I started with Purdue, but I have them going to the Elite Eight and getting bounced there. But I have whatever this team is, they're listed as Sam. I think it's Samford.
Samford, yeah.
Yeah, they're playing Kansas, and this just doesn't feel like Kansas's year. Doesn't feel like Bill Self's team. And I feel like Kansas is the type of team that's like, we're a Final Four team, or we're going to get bounced super early, round of 64, round of 32. So it's like, sometimes I take a look, and I wonder if you do similar, where I'm like, I don't know that they're going to lose to this team, but I don't think they're going to go far. So I might as well take the upset here where most people don't have it, because I'm not going to lose a lot of points in the next round. Like you mentioned earlier, and I used to always say this when we were doing them in high school, especially when I was like 2 years in, I felt so cool about knowing what was going on. And I'd always make the joke that, brackets aren't won on the first day there, Rook. And I would always say something like that because the points increase, right? They go up and up.
Correct.
And if your Final Four is intact, that's really all that matters through the first round of 64. Keeping your Final Four and hoping for about 75% of your Elite Eight through the first weekend of games. So if you can do that, you're in decent standing. And sometimes, like I said, I just look at, maybe they don't win this one. Maybe this isn't the best matchup, but I don't think they're going far. Let me take the big upset now.
I like that train of thought, and I often think the same exact thing. Like, when you start looking at the other people's brackets in your tournament there, you're like, okay, they had Kansas, I took Samford, whatever, but they have Kansas going far, so now I'm rooting the hell against Kansas in round 2, because that's going to ruin everyone else's bracket. Mine's already ruined for that regard, so I actually want them to lose even more now than I did before, and that's the fun thing about, playing the little odds against your bracket mates there. McNeese, whatever. I don't care. I'm taking him. 12 seed over Gonzaga. Love it. Again, my guy Ryan Hammer on TikTok, who I've been following him along on this college basketball journey here. He loves them. I don't know if this guy's credible. He talks about the trapezoid of excellence. He sells it to me. I'm all in. McNeese, let's go, baby.
They're switched my pick. I'm in.
Let's go,
Gonzaga's bounced because multiple things, but I said how I don't trust them, and I just went on this whole rant, and then I had Gonzaga getting upset by Samford, who I don't know anything about, but I got Samford all the way going to the Sweet 16. So you know what? Might as well add McNeese, have a little 12-13 matchup, see some double digits in the weekend, whatever.
I hope that there's someone in the car listening to this right now, just being like, dude, you guys are reading my mind right now. I was taking all these stupid picks, and I feel great about it. And then by Saturday, we're going to be like, this was horrible. What a terrible job we did here.
But you know what the best thing is? Then on Saturday, I'll just bet the games individually and go, well, the $25 bracket's gone, but I can make it back right here with this money line.
All day, every day.
That's right.
That's it.
Best tournament of the year.
Also, I'm going to mess with Oregon. I heard some stuff about them battling injuries through the year, and now they're getting healthy, they're getting right. Oregon, 11 seed, feels frisky, but it's not going to matter much because Creighton is a team that I'm keen in on. Creighton to the Final Four for me in this bracket, man. Creighton all day.
Hell, Pete, stop doing this. When we get down to this Final Four and we have all four of the same teams, this is going to come out disastrous.
Man, Coach McDermott, he's been out there for a minute, and
that's it.
Gotta respect it.
I'm like,
gotta respect it.
They're typically frisky. Doug's still there? No, whatever.
Well, dude, his dad's the coach, by the way. That's why I said it. Okay, just in case you didn't know. They're not just frisky anymore. They're like a real power in college basketball. It's not just frisk. It's real for Creighton is my take on the whole thing there. So I like that a lot. All right. We got a bunch of these upset possibilities here. Let's just do it, Cody. Let's put it on wax. Do you want to just do a Final Four?
Yeah, I know there's one that's different here. So I've got Auburn beating UNC, and I've got Creighton beating Houston. So there's my final, Auburn and Creighton. I'll let you go before.
Okay. I also have Auburn, but I'm going Baylor in the bottom left there. I like Baylor to slow things down, muck it up a little bit in the bottom left there. And then on the top right, I have where are they? Okay, yeah. You know what? I'm going with Kentucky here. They got a guy who I tend to like in the draft here, Rob Dillingham. He's one of the few college basketball players who I've kind of tapped into the YouTube clips with, watching some of his game tape as I start my little NBA draft stuff here. I think Rob Dillingham makes some splashes here, and usually a freshman guard on a Kentucky team won't be the game changer of impact in a tournament, but I'm rolling with it anyway. And then in the bottom right, I'm sorry, I already threw that out there. I like Creighton to go all the way, take down Tennessee down the road if they run into them, take down Purdue if they run into them. Not scared. I think Creighton is the most sound team in the bottom right to take it over. And then my champion this year, Cody. My champion this year.
That's my drum roll.
I'm just going to go Auburn. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to say it. It's not happening, obviously, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, now
I'm going to say Auburn. Are you taking Auburn?
I got Auburn beating Creighton.
This is horrible.
Maybe I'm
just delete this entire podcast.
I don't know. I'm just a big Bruce Pearl fan. I love seeing him on the sideline. He's like sweating. He's got cool outfits. He's energetic. I don't know. I would love to see him break through, and that's my analysis. I like Bruce Pearl.
Also do. I want to like Iowa State this year. I really do. I think that they have like this nature about them that makes me feel interested to pick them. But I just want Auburn. Auburn was the vibes this year. All the vibes.
You're right. I'm right there with you. I don't know why. I don't know what I was drawn to. You know what? Actually, I will say this. I did see something on Twitter, which I've been trying to search since we started this. I'd hoped I liked it. I don't know why I'm so dumb as to not when I try to keep things somewhere. I don't know why I don't like it. But it was giving essentially the net rating, offensive, defensive, and it said this many winners. It came out to 95% of winners over the last like 20 plus years. I think that's what it was.
Top 57 offense, top 27 defense, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in the top 57 offensive efficiency, top 57 defensive efficiency, here's the list of teams who have done that this year. I know UConn was in there. I know Auburn was in there. And I honestly don't remember the rest because I think I did that. I think I saw that and was like, yeah, I already liked Auburn. All right, that's it. They're my national champion.
Okay. Should we delete this entire podcast or just...
No, it's going to be amazing when Auburn gets bounced in the first round. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so funny.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not even going to post a clip about this, but if Auburn does lose in the first round, I'm definitely posting the clip of us just being incredibly wrong about everything. Maybe there'll be even more benefit for us if there's a highlight reel of all the things that we said wrong on this podcast. So that'd be super great for us and great fun for people to make fun of us and act like their brackets were perfect when they probably filled out 6 of them. I don't care about your expertise, bro.
I hope we get like hate mail. Like, I listen,
be great.
I put everything on Auburn, you sons of bitches. Now my kid can't eat.
That'd be so good.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on. That was college basketball talk with 2 experts, Cody O'Connor, Pete Kennedy here. We're going to talk about something we have a bit more of an understanding of. No, I shouldn't say that because we're going to do good, Cody. We're going to do good.
Yes, we are.
Good. We're going to talk now about the quarterback situation here at the top of the NFL draft. As we approach this stuff and we're getting closer and closer, and there's more clarity on which teams are actually going to be looking for quarterbacks, which teams have the, arsenal to possibly trade up to get one of these quarterbacks. It's really a 4 quarterback race now. And depending on where you look, and we can go through the whole process. We don't have time for all that right now of how you and I look at the draft for the NFL, but it's a 4 quarterback race. It's Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and JJ McCarthy. Most places right now would have Caleb, Jaden, Drake, maybe flopping Drake May and Jaden Daniels and JJ McCarthy number 4. A few places are pushing JJ McCarthy into that 3 slot now. The place I happen to have up on my computer is Tankathon. They have JJ McCarthy currently slotted in at number 6 to the New York Giants. Now, I don't know how that makes you feel, Cody, but I want to ask you the whole big picture here. With these quarterbacks, do you feel comfortable and or confident about any of these landing spots, about these teams the Bears, Washington, New England, the Giants, the Vikings, who now moved off Kirk Cousins, to really just go all in on these guys and kind of make it their moment of drafting this quarterback?
Well, the Bears solidified the fact that they're getting Caleb Williams when they dealt
Correct.
Justin Fields, right? And to be honest, man, it's got to be the first time maybe in my lifetime that a Bears offense is this hyped up, with Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift joining the likes of DJ Moore. And now, Caleb Williams is going to be, drafted there. And, he's got Mahomes comparisons. And from what I've seen, there are some of those off platform, off, I don't know, what do you call it? Off kilter, whatever. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but, he's got some of that to him. So then you move down to Washington, who I don't think it worked out with Sam Howell. Did they deal him actually to Seattle? Didn't they deal him to Seattle, Sam Howell? Or is he still in Washington?
I feel like he's not with them anymore.
Regardless, they're drafting a quarterback. There's no questions asked. And then the Patriots would be dumb not to. So
yeah, Seattle.
Then you've got Arizona at 4 and the Chargers at 5. Arizona, you don't think is drafting a quarterback. They should be sticking with Kyler. I mean, they already did make that move once with Josh Rosen going to Kyler. And then it gets to, Los Angeles will take best available. They might even trade back. And then you got the Giants sitting here at 6. And, I've seen every report say the worst kept secret is the Giants needing and wanting to draft a quarterback, their desire to do so, which is the right move. Why is it out there for everybody to know? I don't mean to make this some Giants rant, but my God, this team, just every time I look, I'm like, yep, that's the wrong thing again. Good job, guys. Like, it's the offseason. We're still making mistakes. But, we know they need to draft a quarterback. If I'm the Bears, I'm the most excited about what I'm getting and what the potential is to really see that investment turn around right away. Washington will probably take, my guess is Drake May, but Jaden Daniels is flying up draft stock. So we'll see. I thought for a while the Giants could get Jaden Daniels. Now it looks like J.J. McCarthy, who I spent more time than not saying, I don't really like this guy. I don't really trust him. I don't really think he's that great. I think it's Michigan's run game and their defense. And you better believe that I will talk myself into J.J. McCarthy if he becomes the New York Giants quarterback.
Now that brings us to the conversation that I really wanted to have in this entire thing, because of the way most of the mocks and big boards are looking. It's Caleb number 1, and then Daniels and Drake May 2, 3, however you want to have it. JJ's the one who's really moved the most. Jaden's move happened a while ago, right? Like, he already boomed up the draft boards months ago. This is not new that he's in the top 3. JJ being put at number 6 is kind of new, right? And I know he had all this success, but the thing that gets talked about the most, even just like looking at his statistics here, he didn't have to do nearly as much as these other guys. So, Cody, I want to ask you this question. When you hear that argument, that talking point, JJ wasn't asked to do more from Michigan. That's why his numbers aren't as good. That's why his film's not as good, but he can do more. Is that something that you hear and say, oh, that makes sense, I'm in on this guy who probably or might have untapped potential? Or does it make you nervous and say, maybe he wasn't asked to do more because he can't do more? Where do you land on that side of the argument?
Yeah, it's tough to say anything negative really about what he did or didn't do because they won the national championship. And, I've been on here multiple times talking about nothing being more important than winning football games. Back when at least I was defending what Jones had done and why he got the contract, and what I had seen from him in the 2022 season was, they're winning football games, and, he's a large part of that. And there's nothing that's more important. I understand the touchdown passes or lack thereof and all the statistics, but winning games matters. And J.J. McCarthy did that. And that's definitely what I'll talk myself into with that guy. I've heard, about his third down efficiency. So, he feels like, maybe he is the type of guy who's a quote gamer, right? The old school, he's not going to wow you. He's not going to jump off the page, but he can get it done. That's what you talk yourself into with a guy like that. But this is all I know for sure. The Giants need to draft a quarterback, likely will draft a quarterback, and cannot be wrong about it again. They simply can't. The one thing about the Jones contract that I mentioned, even when they first got it, the reason I thought it was a decent contract was they are out of it after this year. So last year was just about as bad as it could possibly go. I mean, he looked bad. He looked like the old DJ. The offense looked horrible. They were completely out of rhythm, and he gets hurt, and he's got a season-ending injury, which is going to impact the following year. Simply the worst case scenario was last year. But the point was, well, if that happens, you've only got one more year of him on the books. You can kind of start fresh after that. And so if it's JJ, like I said, I will talk myself into him being a winner, a gamer, and see what he can do with this team. But he also doesn't have that upside, that excitement that obviously Caleb Williams or even Jaden Daniels, who's a more realistic target, is going to have.
So where I disagree with you is that the Giants have to take a quarterback this year. It's something that I'm not ready to say they have to do. And it's not because I feel differently about Daniel Jones. I've always been slightly more negative on Daniel Jones than you have. But what I did say when the contract came out was the same thing that you just said. That out makes this contract much more palatable. And I think the big number, it either scares people or it makes them say, oh, he got all this money. He doesn't deserve all that money. He didn't get all that money. Half that money's not real. If he's not doing what he did the year prior, that contract can be voided a lot sooner than the headline says it can be, right? So to me, do I want a new quarterback? Yes, but I don't want the Giants to take a quarterback because they feel like they have to this year when it's not a guy that they're in love with at number 6. Honestly, I would rather them move down and take a Penix or a Bo Nix, who I don't feel like great about either, but at least then you're adding some draft stock to the game. You're not using a number 6 pick on a quarterback, which is the same spot that Daniel Jones was taken on, who's going to have a certain expectation, who as soon as DJ slows down next year, they're going to be clamoring for him to get in the game. I don't think that creates a good environment for the Giants organization right away. And there's going to be more quarterbacks every year in the draft. There is every single year. In big time draft years, there's 2 quarterbacks in the first round who hit, and there's 3 or 4 who suck. And that's probably going to happen every year for the rest of our lives. That's how it goes right now when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. So I don't want to take JJ McCarthy at number 6. It's not a huge detriment, me saying JJ McCarthy's going to suck or that he's not an NFL quarterback. I don't believe that. But based upon the way he's jumped up these rankings, I don't want my team to put their future on that at number 6. So I'd much rather them take the offensive lineman, Joe Alt, take that wide receiver prospect because they're desperate for more talent, whether it's Roma Dunze or if Malik Neighbors comes down there. They're obviously probably not going to get Marvin Harrison, but Dunze or Neighbors feels like it would be a great win for me. I don't think it's worth it to take JJ at 6 just because they need a new quarterback on the roster. I'd much rather trade down and take one of the other quarterbacks or take one of the other positions I need because there are plenty of positions I need and move it forward with DJ and see what happens next year.
Yeah, and when I say I think they need to draft a quarterback, and I agree with what you say, this class has been promoted to us and kind of hyped up as a class with a ton of quarterback talent. And you're hoping, as a Giants fan, that you're not in this position again next year, right? You don't want to keep being inside the top 10, borderline top 5 year in and year out. So that's part of the desperation. But you can't be desperate and be wrong. So you're right. Like if JJ's not your guy, and I lean more towards what you said because that's how I felt all year long. And I'd talk myself into the guy, but that's all I'd be doing. So if he's not your guy, yes, take the most talented player, build around that. And then based on that, let me ask you this, like when you saw what Justin Fields went for, how little he went for, a 6th round pick could conditionally become a 4th. Did no part of you, because I know a part of me thought, why not take a flyer on that guy? You're not guaranteed one of these stud quarterbacks. You don't have to feel as desperate. And if you really do love this guy that you end up with, you could always re-deal Justin Fields or find a way to work around it. It's not like he's expensive. He's on the rookie contract. So when I saw that, I thought they missed out on Russ and ended up with Drew Lock. And then you bypass the opportunity for Justin Fields, who still has some promise and some upside. Obviously, you'd have to pay him next year, but you get a year to find out. Why not take a flyer on him?
I think that just puts them in the same position as they are with Daniel Jones. It's like, all right, does this guy have upside? Yes. is it likely that he crushes through his upside to the point where you now want to give him that contract? Probably not, right? Like, what type of year is he going to put in to where you say, yes, I'm ready to put my now future on Justin Fields? He would have to make a pretty massive swing. It makes much more sense for a Steelers to do that than a Giants to do that, in my opinion, just based off the talent they have on their roster and the infrastructure they have to compete even when they're playing Mason Rudolph, right? Like the Giants, yes, they competed with Tommy DeVito, but the season was kind of out of line already at that point. I like Justin Fields. I wanted a team to take a good flyer on him. I don't think the Giants were the team to do that. And Russ, same thing. I don't necessarily agree for the Giants to do something like that.
So then when you saw Drew Lock, what did you think about that?
Sure, whatever.
Okay.
Who cares?
Not really
Backup
competing.
who doesn't suck.
Yeah, I mean,
Backup who doesn't suck. And you know what? Like, if DJ's back next year and he's playing decently well and goes down for a few weeks, because at this point he's been an injury-prone guy. The neck, now a knee, it's happened to him. Drew Lock doesn't suck. That's the way I look at it. He can go in for a game and make something happen. He can go in and be a professional and do okay. And that's fine. That's what a backup quarterback is, honestly. You know, like if you have a backup quarterback who you're hoping is a good starter, you don't have a starting quarterback. So I don't really care, Drew Lock, right? Like that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought for the money, bringing in Russ over Drew Lock made sense to me. Maybe it causes too much of a quarterback controversy.
Way too much.
But that's fine because I don't know where, like, let me ask you it this way. If you were to put it into a percentage, the odds that Daniel Jones bounces back to a point where he plays out his contract, what percentage would you give chances of him being able to do that?
Honestly, like a third.
Yeah, I think 33%. Even that feels high with where I'm at. Like, because it's such a big number, he has to play an unbelievable level to say, oh, no, now it's 2 out of the last 3 years. And now this is coming off the knee injury and with the neck and all that. Like, it feels so unrealistic for him to be able to do that. And I just, at that point, that's where I don't mind taking a flyer and saying, yeah, Daniel, earn it back, dude. Like, let's light a fire under your ass. Earn it back because you haven't earned anything based off of last year. And now, 5 out of 6 years you're with us, or 6 of 7, whatever it is. You've been a mediocre at best quarterback, really far below it. So,
yeah. Yeah, I guess I do see that train of thought for sure. But I just think that if this year goes well enough, then they will possibly move forward with Daniel Jones. And if it doesn't, they'll be in line to take a quarterback next year. Again.
True. But, God, if you're back there.
Yeah, but then again, you pick that tackle, you pick that elite wide receiver, and then drafting the quarterback just gets a little bit easier next year.
And one more piece is down, one less hole to fill, which was huge. Yeah. I know you guys talked about the Brian Burns addition, but that could all of a sudden be a pretty formidable defense. That defensive line should be very, very good with Dexter and Kayvon to flank out with Brian Burns. And, the potential for 30 sacks among those 3 guys is very realistic.
Very, very real. So, yeah, I guess with the Giants, I'm patiently optimistic, if that makes sense, where, like, I don't think it's happening this year. I'm not the Giants fan who comes on this podcast and says they're going to turn it around and win the division next year. They're not in the class of the Cowboys and the Eagles. Even with all their disappointments, the Giants are just not in that class yet. They don't have the weapons, they don't have the line, and they don't have the quarterback.
No.
Shit on Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott all you want. If the Giants had Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott as their quarterbacks right now, we'd be feeling like, oh my gosh, we have to do everything we can to win a freaking championship right now. Instead, we're talking about everything they can do to get a new quarterback on the team, right? So they're not in the same class, even with all the shortcomings that Philly might have or Dallas might have, which I don't think they truly have crazy shortcomings, but people argue that. It's not even the same realm. So that's why I'm like, I don't care. Get a great player, and you'll have your chance to get your quarterback right again next year if you have to.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Agreed.
Cody O, Pete Kennedy, last thing before we go, we're going to talk a little bit of hoop here. And I really want to just play this game with you about the Western Conference. But before we do that, let's just quickly talk about the New York Knicks here, Cody. They're on a road trip right now. They've won 3 games already, Portland, Sacramento, and a great win against Golden State. A great win against Sacramento as well, for that matter. 1.5 games without OG Anunoby, really. And He's back on the injured list here. They're just competing though. So before we talk about OG's injury and the Knicks getting healthy and what they could look like if they're healthy, which we're having this conversation for a month and a half now, I really just got to shout out this team, man. I mean, we talk about the NBA a lot, Cody. You and I watch the NBA more than we humanly should. This is a team that you can watch on any given night, no matter who's playing, and you know they are going to grind. They are competing at the highest level. They will hang with just about anybody, no matter what the circumstance. And to a lot of people out there who don't love the NBA, who are casual Knicks fans, I hate using the word casual, it sounds so negative, but like here and there Knicks fans, wait for the playoff Knicks fans. This is the team that the real people who say they want to like basketball, this is the team that you should watch, Cody. It's the team that plays basketball the way all the basketball heads want basketball to be played. They're diving on the floor. They're blocking shots. They're contesting. They're fouling hard when they need to. They're hitting threes. They're attacking the rim. They're moving the ball. It's just impressive, and it warms my heart to watch this team, Cody. And I know we're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off and say that they're still too injured to make a move right now in the playoffs. But am I right to talk about the Knicks with that much love in my heart and expression on my face when I get this excited to watch them play basketball every night?
It's pretty ironic that we just did a whole March Madness type of episode where we've talked college basketball and we brought up the people who are maybe more college basketball oriented and more than NBA, and it's because they think they're soft in the NBA and they don't play defense and they don't care and they don't try. And if you're listening to this and you're a Knicks fan, that team is exactly what those fans have been looking for. They embody next man up. They embody get on the floor, dive for the loose ball. I mean, they just pick each other up. It's really, and like sometimes I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm doing it myself with Oklahoma City right now, where you just have to stop and appreciate what you get to watch, because this is not a yearly thing for Knicks fans. It's not a yearly thing for New York fans, and you have to appreciate what you're watching when you get to watch it. And obviously, you mentioned the injuries, and that's ultimately going to determine what their exact ceiling is. But I'm in the belief that if they are healthy, and even just OG, I mean, you said it, but it is such a difference when he's on the floor, what he brings to the table and the versatility that he includes. I mean, it's remarkable. But the next man up, I mean, Josh Hart played 48 minutes last night, and he's just like, sure, yeah, I love that, Tibbs. Like, can I do more? Is there anything else I could do? Like, that's not only Josh Hart. That's like 4 or 5 guys on this team. That's who they are. That's what Tibbs has brought. That's their culture. They have that identity, and they are a really fun watch, even in nights where they're not fully healthy.
And there's so much to be said about coaching in the NBA, and you could kind of watch any game and pop in and out and say, oh, how come they subbed this guy in here, for Hartenstein with the Knicks last night? It's like, oh, why is he out? Oh, he's on a minutes restriction. Okay, right. But the one thing that stood out to me in this Warriors win on Monday night, when the Knicks played the Warriors last time, it was at the Garden, they played a style of basketball that was very risk heavy defensively. They were trying to jump passing lanes and kept getting burned. Steph was killing them. They were trying to jump passing lanes, backdoor cuts. They were getting killed. They were doing all these things that were risk heavy, and it weren't working out. And they played Golden State in a completely different fashion. You didn't see people overcommitting on Steph running around the court, going off 4 different screens. You didn't see people losing sight of Cutter's backdoor. You saw those passes getting intercepted and getting fast break opportunities. I really felt like Tibbs was on full display. And yes, he was on full display because Josh Hart played 48 minutes and Miles McBride played 46 and Jalen Brunson played 40 or something like that, right? And if DiVincenzo wasn't in foul trouble, he would have played even more. So Tibbs was on display in the classic Tibbs fashion, but in the way we don't talk about it, this team really plays defense in a way that is undeniable at this point. I know you and I both listen to Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo on their Sunday podcast. They've been talking heavily about the post All-Star break NBA, where the fouls aren't being called as much and the scoring is down, the free throws are down, and like the offensive net ratings are back to a place where it was like 10 years ago over the past month. The Knicks have had 4 or 5 games in the past month where they've given up less than 100 points. Like, this is a real thing now, and possibly this new little refereeing point of emphasis is truly looking at this Knicks team in a positive light, because they play real defense. They are switching well. They are in the passing lanes. They are getting out in fast break more. It's just impressive to watch, and I think Tibbs deserves that shout as well, because we often just talk about Tibbs running his guys into the ground. Yeah, he watches film. He coaches up defense. But we're seeing the defense happen in real time. We're seeing these players play above their heads for extended periods of time, and Tibbs deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. And the interesting thing that you bring up with the refereeing, it is a very tangible difference. Like, I'm watching and going, oh, wow, he didn't get that call. Oh, he used to always get that. That's not the same anymore.
Right.
And some guys...
Or that was a no call.
Yeah, sometimes you still see, some guys get more than others. And the one thing that's very, very difficult to change, but I'd love to see it just become a little more consistent, because even in watching nightly, I'm still like, ooh, I don't know what's a foul still. Like, that looks like the same play on the other end, and that's a hard thing to figure, but at least there's some type of a concerted effort to make that change, because it was getting unwatchable. And speaking of which, I don't know if you were tuned into that Lakers game Saturday night, I think it was. There was over a 15-minute delay.
I was watching the Knicks instead.
It was on national television, and there was like a 15-minute delay. And as much as I love the NBA, that is for nobody. And I know you've heard it on Russillo and Simmons, but like, people who really watch, like, who is this for? I swear to you, I would rather, as a gambler, I'd rather them get it wrong, lose my bet, but it happened in 2 minutes, than sit there, take my dog out, literally take my dog around this parking lot, go for a walk, come back in, and nothing has changed. I come in, I could do the dishes. It was unbelievable. 15 minutes and 3 seconds of NBA action happened. I know you're listening, Adam Silver. Please change something.
Yeah, apparently there was like a clock issue with that as well.
It was
but
getting
still,
laughable.
that's insane.
It was laughable.
It's insane. And like a game with some high octane energy, and like LeBron and Steph, biggest stage, even to this day, where they're not top 5 players right now. Steph, you could probably argue, is pretty close to top 5 still. It's still the 2 biggest draws in the league, LeBron and Steph. And you get that to happen on TNT, like, that sucks. Or ABC, whatever.
It just completely takes all momentum out of the game. And you're right, it was a fantastic finish going down. LeBron had just hit a corner 3 to cut into the lead. He had gotten over 40. It was awesome. And it got ruined by something that happens far too often, a 10, 15-minute review. It just can't happen. And it happens all the time. And on national television, no less.
Yeah, and I think these no calls that are taking place, sometimes it hurts your player, sometimes it helps your player, man. And I think for a team like most Subway Sports Talk listeners probably are Knicks fans, right? It helps us. It helps the Knicks, man. They're physical. You should, like, dude, there was one play. You watched the Knicks Warriors, right? Or actually, no, you fell asleep.
I only watched first half, yeah.
Because you had some bets that were hitting cashing. Me and Pat were like, Cody, you're hitting the bets. And I'm like, yo, he's snoozing right now.
Dude,
but nonetheless,
I woke up happy, man. I got an early morning workout today. Like, my energy was just through the roof this morning after seeing. I'm like, wait, all of them hit? Like, it was awesome.
So there was a play where the Knicks turned it over up by the top of the key. There was a quick pass to Andrew Wiggins, who looked like he had a wide open dunk. Miles McBride came from, probably 5 feet behind Wiggins on the breakaway and across the court, and came up, jumped fully up, straight up, contested this dunk attempt like he was Akeem Olajuwon. Like, he was a monster. He fouled the crap out of him, 100%. Fouled him. They called the foul. I was like, that's probably the best foul I've seen all year. And it was like the epitome of who the Knicks have been so far this year, and especially battling through all these injuries. Miles McBride could have easily said, wide open dunk, whatever. We're up 9 right now. And he flew down the court, jumped up, contested the hell out of the dunk, fouled the hell out of him safely, right? Like, he didn't tackle the hell out of him. I think I texted in the group chat, this is your father's Knicks. This is your uncle's Knicks. And I was like, hold on. If it was your father's Knicks, he probably would have speared him into the third row. So maybe it's not, but like what an impressive foul. And now here I am breaking down a foul by Miles McBride in the fourth quarter. Nonetheless, hyped about it. We'll move off the
It's
Knicks.
the effort,
Obviously, I
man.
need to get healthy. It is. It's impressive stuff. OG completely changes this team.
Mm-hmm.
Need him to be healthy. Hopefully, you get some good news on him soon. And Julius Randle, Mitch Robinson still,
Yeah, it's tough that
unknown.
there's no. It seemed
Unknown.
like all of them. There was a point like a couple weeks ago where it felt like all of them were on some type of a schedule. Like, oh, you're going to see them, and you can start to expect it. And now it feels like the worst thing is the question mark, because that's what it was with
Right.
Lonzo. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with Julius, but there's a big question mark whether he's going to get surgery or not, and you just don't know what to expect, and what the expectation is completely hinders on their health.
Yeah, and OG's number one. As much as we want
Agreed.
Randall back, OG changes the whole math for this team, offensively, defensively. It's really impressive. All right, let's talk about the Western Conference real quick, Cody, so we can end this podcast soon. What I want to ask you about is the teams in the Western Conference that are changing your mind for better or worse, and that can obviously go either way. Teams that are kind of trending in the right direction, heading towards the playoffs. Teams that are maybe trending in the wrong direction, heading towards the playoffs. To give you the quick look, everyone listening right now, practically a three-way tie for first place. Cody's Oklahoma City Thunder with a half-game lead at 47-20. Minnesota and Denver 47-21. Clippers and Pelicans practically tied for 4-5. Kings, Mavericks, Suns all within a half game for 6-7-8. Lakers, Warriors 9-10.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those teams right now, and you know what? Honestly, Houston's been playing freaking awesome, so I'll throw them into it. They're 8 out of their last 10. They're playing good. They're only 2.5 games out of the 10 spot. So, Cody O'Connor, any of these Western teams jump out to you as mind changers for better or worse?
Sacramento is just falling down I guess my own personal list of like, I just don't think that they're going to be able to make it past the first round, especially if they're matched up with Denver, which is who it is. And Denver and Minnesota are playing, as we speak, a very meaningful game, and they're playing it like that. It's been close. I've got it on the side TV while Virginia gets their butts whooped for the play-in. But I think New Orleans is also starting to give me the idea that they could maybe make a series, and the Clippers are going in the opposite direction. So forget Sacramento. Let me focus on that 4-5 that for all best bets, that should be the 4-5 matchup. They've got a cushion on either side as to where they're going to move to. The only thing could be home court. And the Clippers have not been healthy. They haven't looked very good of late. Norman Powell was out the other night. Russell Westbrook's been out for a while. Harden has been in and out. Kawhi's been actually pretty healthy and a mainstay, and Paul George has as well. But I don't know. I don't trust this Clippers team, I don't think. I really don't. I think they could get past New Orleans, but there's something. I think it could be their size. Maybe it's the makeup. The little injuries causing this much of a difference for me. They've been okay. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They lost back-to-back games, and they're not moving in the standings. But I have some concern about them, and I know they're probably a hotter ticket to come out of the West. If you're not going Denver, you're probably going Clippers, right? I mean, I would say that's pretty fair, and I think without looking at the odds right now, I think that's what the gambling odds would say too. So I'm wary about the Clippers, and I'm starting to believe the Pelicans could maybe even upset them in round one.
I was going to bring up the Pelicans, and you did, so I'll just add on really quickly. I think they're so interesting now because of the Zion surgence a little bit here. He's been playing a lot better. He is playing this pseudo point guard role again, and adding the wings around Zion instead of trying to shoehorn a point guard around Zion, it just creates this whole dynamic that is weird for other teams to play. And I think I mentioned the Pelicans to you a while back as a team who looked like they could have played Oklahoma City in the first round and been like, yo, I don't think you want to see the Pelicans because you got a guy like Valanciunas who's going to dominate on the boards. He's going to give smaller teams issues. They have Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, who are just long, really good defenders. They have two guys who can put the ball on the ground and just make crap happen in Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. And you throw in CJ, who's been okay, right? He's been kind of in and out, I know he didn't close a game for them earlier in the weekend,
Mhm.
but this team now with Zion playing better and kind of looking like the more peak version of Zion that he didn't look like earlier in the year, it makes them incredibly interesting. And I think that all the teams, including Minnesota, including the Clippers, including the Thunder, would not want to face them just because they're going to kind of make you play a version of basketball that may not be your strong suit, right? Like they're going to outsize the Thunder. They're going to match the length of the Clippers. They're going to throw 4 different guys at Anthony Edwards to make their life hell. The Nuggets are kind of matchup proof right now, so I'm going to leave them off. But all the other teams in the West, for all their strengths, the Pelicans have this weird, lengthy team that can kind of form fit around any of the other top dogs in the Western Conference.
Yeah, and as I am, able to look up some of the odds, one, as I was saying before, the Clippers are not only the next betting favorite, they're a pretty significant margin. They're plus 290, and the next team you're seeing is OKC at plus 850. So that's what the odds are telling you.
Oh, God.
I disagree with that completely. I don't think
maybe a month ago.
Agreed. But they're not going to adjust for that. So I just think that's a bad bet. And the Pelicans they're completely given almost no chance here. They're listed below Golden State and the Lakers, who I think they would beat both of, and I think they're much better than both of. But I do understand why you're gambling wise, you're going to have LeBron and the Lakers and Steph and the Warriors. But the Pelicans at 28-1, look, I don't think that they're going to win the West, but here's their pathway. If this stays as it is, right, and say OKC stays the 1, Minnesota and Denver stay 2 and 3, if the Pelicans can get past the Clippers, if I'm not mistaken, they would have OKC next round, and they'd be able to avoid Denver all the way to the conference finals, which is the team to avoid in the West. If you get them at 28-1, you got a hedge chance right away. I mean, you could, try to play that out and see if maybe they can steal an early game and the odds flip a little bit, but if you get them at 28-1, they really have to make the conference finals for you, and then you get a chance to hedge it out and figure out a way to make money off of it. So there's a little insight for you. I don't think that's a bad pick at all.
No, it's not. And I think, they've been lying in the grass for most of this year. It's like they never had a really bad stretch, right? Like they were never just sucking this year. They were always kind of hanging around. But now over the past month or so, they've just been kind of knocking off win after win after win and just playing really good basketball. And, you got to start taking them serious, right? They can play with anybody again outside of Denver, who seems to be matchup proof just because of Jokic's prowess. They match up with the whole gambit. They really do. Now, on the rest of the Western Conference front, I'll throw out a team that I'm starting to just say, I don't know what it is about them. I don't know if it's real or if I want it to be real, or if I don't want it to be real. I just think Dallas in the playoffs is going to be an absolute bear. Like, if they end up being the 7th seed, which would be unfortunate for them, like Minnesota, if they're whoever, we don't know. Listen, it's a half game between 1 and 3 right now. It could be whoever it may be, but I don't know how a team goes into a series against Luka and this version of Kyrie Irving and says, "Yep, we got this. I feel great about it," because I sure as hell would not. They proved it against Denver recently, as short as a week ago. They can play with anyone, and when Luka and Kyrie are cooking, they're a bear to deal with. So I think Dallas is a team that's kind of changing my mind in the positive to say they're going to be an extremely hard out, even if they don't have championship contender status.
Yeah, they're the team that I feel like I've been on since we started this conversation a month or so ago. Like it's just when you have Luka Doncic, you're going to have the best, if not outside of him playing Nikola Jokic, he'll be the best player on the floor in any Western Conference matchup. I think that's pretty safe to say, right? Kyrie Irving, for whatever you think of the guy, is a known finisher, a bucket getter, a clear-cut, knows his role, dog of a number 2 kind of guy. And they've surrounded them with, more pieces, more talent at the deadline. I'm such in agreement with you, and they're the type of team that, because of Luka and what he's capable of, they're another, good dark horse, long shot, let me see if I can get them to the conference final. Because ultimately, I still don't think anyone beats Denver. But
Yeah, same.
obviously, I'm hopeful that my Oklahoma City Thunder can do it. But I'd be remiss if I said I think they're going to. I mean, the youth, the eight. I mean, they're the youngest team in the NBA. Number one, youngest team in the NBA, not the Spurs, the Thunder. So to think that they're going to be able to beat the defending champs and Joker, who's just far and about the best player in the world, that's pretty far-fetched, even for a fan to say.
Yeah, and you've been kind of realistic in that regard this entire run. And as fun as they are, you kind of have said, listen, they need to win one round. If they lose the first round, massive disappointment. But if they lose to Luka Doncic, if they lose to Nikola Jokic, if they lose to a Timberwolves team or something like that, it's going to be hard to say that they failed this year, right? Like, it's going to be hard. Maybe Minnesota, because they're not that experienced
that's
either.
A good
but
measuring stick, though. Like, if they matched up with them, I'd feel like Oklahoma City size would be of trouble, but I think that they should beat them. I think they should beat anyone outside of Denver, truthfully. I think they're good enough too, but would I be surprised if they match up with Luka and they lose in the first round? Absolutely not.
And now, as we sit here today, Cody, do you realize that if the play-in stands, we will have a play-in tournament that will feature Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson.
Unbelievable.
The play-in tournament.
This is the West. And how great is it, though, that we do have this play-in? Like, I don't know how you felt in the moment. I know I thought it was cool.
I've been pro.
Yeah, I was like, oh, more basketball. Great. But, like, even beyond that, the fact that you're going to be able to see these teams duke it out. I mean, LeBron versus Steph potentially in another winner-take-all. KD, I mean, you mentioned it, but that's going to be must-see TV. Dallas and Phoenix. Luka's going to go for 75 points against Dallas. He hates those guys. He is going to murder them and make it perfect. And he's going to laugh while he does it. He's a menace.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. And you know what? It's crazy, but also, what's this, like the fourth year of the play-in?
That sounds about right.
Something
Third,
like that.
fourth year. I
Something
think it started. Did it start the year after COVID or COVID year?
Something like that. Doesn't matter. We've seen multiple teams now from the play-in make a conference finals or finals. The Heat did it. The Lakers were in the conference finals last year. And if I'm not mistaken, there was another team that made a little run out of it as well. Maybe it's just those two.
I think this is the third year. It feels like the third year.
Yeah, and even still now, 2 years out of 3, a play-in team in a conference finals or finals, like what? That's something here. Man. And again, to the Thunder, to the Timberwolves, who are now currently 1-2, bruh, you work this hard, you win 55 games, and you end up playing Luka round 1?
Yep.
What? That's messed up, man. That's messed up. That's messed up.
It's going to be fun.
Oh, all right. Cody O'Connor, this was great. I look forward to talking more basketball with you. And also, baseball starts next week.
Yeah.
God damn it. God damn. We have the tournament on Thursday. We have next Thursday opening day. Wow. And the NBA playoffs right around the corner. Holy smokes,
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, thank you to the Knicks. I am now because I was able to get my futures in with those winnings of those, Josh Hart triple-double and Hartenstein double-double.
Josh Hart triple-double.
Thank you guys because I got my Mets futures in. Get your Francisco Alvarez futures in. The ticket's hot. It's already bumped up. You might have missed out on the opportunity, but
I'm tapped
kid's
in.
a stud.
I'm tapped in. Let's go. All right, Cody O'Connor, Subway Sports Talk. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review on your podcast app, or follow us on social media at Subway Sports Talk. Good luck on your brackets. Let us know if you like Auburn as much as me and Cody. Let us know if you're just as scared as Luka Doncic in the playoffs, and we'll have fun talking sports with you, as we always do. All right, shout out to y'all. Thanks for listening. Cheers.